And to see the narrative now going out into the media that Liverpool appear to be losing ground or that Liverpool are unwilling to pay the money, this is exactly why I have no faith or no trust in FSG. This video is being brought to you with thanks to our friends at Surfshark. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to not only browse the internet entirely anonymously, but also very securely. Surfshark will secure your data with industry-leading measures using uncrackable encryption and the most secure VPN protocols. One subscription with Surfshark will work across all of your devices. I use it for unlocking things like American Netflix. We also use it if we want to watch our Canadian DAZN account and a couple of other bits and pieces. The good news is you can get 83% off. That's right, I did say 83% off. And an additional 3 months free using the Anfield Agenda link in the description. They've also got a really credible and unique 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like Surfshark, it doesn't meet your needs, which I'm going to be honest with you, it will and you won't. But if you do, if you want to change, Surfshark give you 30 days to change your mind. Why not give Surfshark a try? You'll be supporting us here at Anfield Agenda and you'll be treating yourself to the best VPN provider out there, bar none. Look, I'm going to get straight into it. I like to keep these videos less than 10 minutes where possible. So I'm going to get straight into the first story that caught my eye today, and it comes from The Telegraph, and they say that Liverpool appear to be losing ground in the race for Jude Bellingham. If you follow that up with another story that came out from the Times today that said Liverpool are admirers of Jude Bellingham, although it appears unlikely they would be willing to pay Dortmund's asking price, which is set to be more than £100 million. Look, this is where I get really wound up and annoyed by anybody who is in support of FSG. Because the narrative is once again being shifted from, well, when it's the end of one window, we can promise the sun, moon and stars for the next window. But as said window approaches, or as the prospect of actually having to put their hands into their pockets or take on some debt to Liverpool Football Club to afford this player who we all knew, including FSG, because for all the things I will accuse them of, being idiots certainly isn't one of them. They knew Jude Bellingham's price tag. They knew when they started inquiring about Jude Bellingham many years ago what his price tag was ultimately going to be when he moved from Dortmund to Liverpool or to anywhere else. And to see the narrative now going out into the media that Liverpool appear to be losing ground or that Liverpool are unwilling to pay the money, this is exactly why I have no faith or no trust in FSG. We have been told for years on end about Liverpool being able to compete for the top players, about Liverpool being very meticulous in how they spend, and the phrase that I'm going to use again is generational talent. We've always been told that there is money set aside in case a generational talent becomes available. Well, this is it, FSG. This is your moment. I feel like I'm doing a bit of an 8 Mile here, but this is your moment. You've either got to put up or sell up as far as I'm concerned. Now look, who am I? I'm just some arrogant, loudmouth Irish fella that comes on here talking about a football club that we all like. But ultimately, this is it. This is the moment that FSG will show their true colours. I think they've shown it previously. I've said to you guys before, the Super League apology was nonsense as far as I'm concerned. It was a PR exercise and I didn't believe a word of it. But this has been the one. I've long told you that Jude Bellingham is more than open to come to Liverpool Football Club. In fact, we were by far the front runners for a long time. And if you don't believe me on that, just look at what journalists like Henry Winter have said previously, with things like, I'm looking forward to seeing Jude Bellingham at Liverpool next year. That deal with the player is no problem. Liverpool Football Club have no issues bringing in Jude Bellingham with regards to the project of the football. Where the issue will come up, and this is the one thing I've warned against, people will come in and say, Craig, you told me Liverpool were signing Jude Bellingham. I gave you a caveat. I always gave you one caveat. If FSG are actually willing to put their hand in their pockets, we signed Jude Bellingham. Because the project, the manager, the club, all fits in with Jude Bellingham's aspirations. You've seen stuff around Real Madrid in the media over the last few days. Honestly, regardless of whether he comes to Liverpool, Manchester City or whomever, I don't for 1 second believe that Jude Bellingham ends up at Real Madrid. It's not the right career path from at this moment in time. And Real Madrid have a history of loudmouthing in the media. And I've said this over and over again. And if you don't believe me, as I've always said, look back at previous transfer sagas with Real Madrid. My take of what happens with Real Madrid is that Kylian Mbappe will move to Real Madrid. Real Madrid fans who now say that they don't want Kylian Mbappe will of course be pacified when a superstar arrives. And Kylian Mbappe makes his public apology, and all that other stuff that goes along with saving face for Real Madrid. Because make no bones about it, it was a huge slap in the face for Real Madrid when Kylian Mbappe chose to stay at Paris Saint-Germain and not move to Florentino Perez project, with the Santiago Bernabeu being redeveloped, and it's a magnificent redevelopment, in fairness. I don't know if you've seen the plans for it, but ultimately I'm waffling a bit here, and I'm waffling because this is what I tend to do when I get worked up, and I'm trying not to scream and curse and say all things that would get me demonetized and in trouble on YouTube, because right now to say I'm fuming is an understatement, because these stories that you're seeing in the media today don't just come out by accident. They aren't just some journalist sitting down in the Times office or in the Telegraph office and just making up a story. There will have been briefings. There will have been briefings from people within the club to these journalists, or at least some loose lips, shall we say, around the situation. And all I see right now is Liverpool preparing excuses as to how they couldn't match people for Bellingham, preparing excuses as to how they can't afford the transfer fee for Bellingham, and that they're shocked that Borussia Dortmund are going to look for money in excess of 100 million. Every single person that watches football would have been able to tell you that Jude Bellingham's fee was going to be somewhere between £80 million and £120 million. And if FSG haven't banked on that since day one, that they've showed an interest in Jude Bellingham, then they are nothing but spoofers, because there is no plan B. There is no go out there and get somebody else who does what Bellingham does, because the only semi-alternative option may be Declan Rice, who is probably going to cost a similar amount of money, would probably even a little bit more because of the English tax, and I'm aware that Jude Bellingham's from England, but he's Premier League tried and tested Declan Rice. Add that to the fact that Chelsea have been long admirers of his, and that's where I think he'll actually end up. And you start scratching your head going, if FSG don't pony up for Jude Bellingham, then what the hell is Jurgen Klopp going to do? And therein, my friends, lies my problem all along, because they can spoof and cut us when Jurgen Klopp is batting above his average, when he's getting a tune out of players that other managers may not be able to. It's kind of lulled them and us, I suppose, as fans, into a false sense of security in our position. And we're up, I don't want to say the creek, but you know what creek I'm talking about right now, and we're struggling for a paddle. And for me, if they miss the boat on Bellingham, that's it. I've never, ever called for people to be publicly shaming FSG. Because shaming, I think, is the right word in this situation. But right now, we have to speak up as fans. And by that, I mean not just us on Anfield Agenda, not just other podcasts. Everybody on social media, everybody that has a platform needs to start reminding FSG that they're custodians of a football club that are used to winning things. Over the past 30, 40, 50 years, Liverpool Football Club have been right at the top. And if FSG cannot or are unwilling to find the 100 million plus to buy Jude Bellingham, then I'm sorry, but you've got no future at Liverpool Football Club as it stands, because you've taken us as far as you can. So it's time to either back Jurgen Klopp with the money, put up or sell up. It is simply that way for me, because if we don't get Bellingham, we aren't going to challenge for a league title, in my humble opinion, for the next God knows how long. Certainly, I'd be very surprised if we did it again under Jurgen Klopp's tenure. And some people will think I'm being sensationalist here, but I'm not. I've been, I won't say patient, because I haven't been, but I've certainly been more understanding of FSG in the past and about transfer business and how they thought the club was going to be run when they bought it. They thought FFP was going to be a sustainable model that would be enforced by UEFA, but it became very apparent over the past 3, 4, 5 years that that is never going to be the case, and that FSG are going to have to find a way to compete. Now, they have sold a stake in the football club. We've been told that some of that money was used to cover losses during the pandemic, as well as a few other bits and bobs. Understandable. The pandemic was a very difficult time for football. But there is no goddamn reason why FSG cannot buy Jude Bellingham other than them being cheapskates. If you don't think that Liverpool Football Club can access the type of money that it would take to bring Jude Bellingham in, then I'm afraid that you're very much mistaken. It may lead to us taking on a little bit of debt, but debt isn't always a dirty word in football. It's how that debt is put across the balance sheet. that matters. And with regards to wages, well, think about it this way. James Milner, who's a relatively high earner at the football club, last guess at his wages was about 140k. I know he signed a 1-year extension on reduced terms. I'm not sure what those terms are, but let's say, for argument's sake, he's on 100 grand a week. That's about 5 mil a year. Add to that Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, whom again I think is on similar money to what Milner used to be, between 120 and 140. Let's call it 6 million a year. That's 11 million. And add on to that, Naby Keita could well be leaving the club. Bobby Firmino could be leaving the club. You get to see very quickly how a big bunch of wages gets to be freed up. And we need to go and get this guy. No more fringe players. No more players that could come good in 3, 4 or 5 years. This is the time that FSG have to act up. And it's time for us as fans to start putting the pressure on. So look, I'm not saying all is lost with Jude Bellingham, but I am starting to see excuses being made. And we need to remind them, excuses are no longer tolerated. We need action at this point, and we need to start acting like a big football club. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. As always, I'm sorry if this was a bit ranty, but I knew this was coming. We all knew this was coming. Promised one thing, sold a pup, and then when it comes time to actually acting and paying up, the excuses start coming out, which is always the case with FSG when they have to start spending money. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.